bro, I think we're cooked. Like, why war won't work with Gen Z? Well, because there's this odd dichotomy. You know, you have the people who believe that America's evil, America's the bad, America's this existential threat, though they're born in America, which is one of the best countries on the planet. You know, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, maybe better countries exist, but I mean, name me the country and I can name you the problem. But I guess for the most part, like the reason you have the ability and you can afford as a liberal Western white woman to say America's evil is because you're allowed to, and because people champion you, and because you are the most privileged. Like that's not something that guys have. Like as a guy, you need to prove that you know what the fuck you're doing and prove that you're good, right? And okay, so you have the people who think America's evil, America's bad, but then you have this demographic of young men who are going to be very hyper conservative because you've lived in the past couple 4 years where jobs would look down like do everything in their power not to hire you. They'd either hire a different demographic than you. People look down to you, and no one wants to actually give you any advice. No one wants to, help you out. Everyone wants to just you find excuses, then use you as the excuse. And if it's something that's happened to you, this is something that the way you would absolutely think. And and again, all anyone wants to do is talk shit about you. And it's like, okay, well, why the fuck would someone like that ever join the military? For a society like why not just sit at home, play your video games? You're not a threat. Like you're just tuning out. You're not a threat to society, despite what people on Twitter, people on Reddit want you to think. I mean, you're not going out starting NGOs. You're not the Andrew Tate. You're not the Sneakos of the world. You're just like, well, I'm tuning out. I'm going to sit in my house, play my games, and fuck off from society. But when that happens, again, no one wants to give you any advice. All anyone wants to treat you is like a threat. And I think because of that, and because of these two dichotomies of people, like, yeah, I think a good portion of people just sit in the middle. Like, a good portion of people are reasonable. And it's like, okay, well, the world's against everyone. And life sucks. But I'm going to make something of myself regardless, despite all that. There's enough stoic people out there. But I think there's also enough people that on these two dichotomies that I don't think people are going to want to join the military. So let's give this a watch, shall we? Or we hold on. Doing the thing. Okay, the thing's done.
They say every couple of generations, one generation is bound to experience the most life-changing events in history. And so far, it's looking like Gen Z is fitting the boot. Okay, maybe that's a little bit of an
I mean, that's the thing with the whole generation talk. Like, it's something that no one can actually agree with because you have people that just refuse to, identify with other. So it's a line that shifts and changes almost yearly about what generation you're part of. Like, I guess I'm a millennial. Like, I was born like 2029, but again, other people would say, no, you're not. It's like, well, fuck. I don't know. Right? Like, I'm trying to be part of this conversation, but we can't even agree on where the line's fucking drawn. But, I mean, We lived through Y2K. I lived through, the crash in the early 2000s. I was young and didn't give a fuck. There was 9/11, which was something that sits well in most people's minds. I mean, killed Osama bin Laden, the war in Iraq, or Afghanistan. Well, that entire campaign, I was in like middle school. And these were all things when I was young. So there were some major events that happened with my generation, the younger generation.
Exaggeration, but can you blame me after all the things
we lived through the great gaming, the golden age of gaming, which I don't care what generation you're from. If you didn't live through there, your generation truly was garbage. Just the great entertainment, the golden year of entertainment period. You had banger games, banger movies, banger music, banger TV shows, right? So, if you didn't live through this as a child, you had a terrible fucking childhood. I don't give a fuck what generation you lived in.
We've had. Most of us were born around the time or after one of the most devastating terror attacks in modern times happened. We saw our parents trying to keep their sanity during the 2008 financial crisis. As soon as we stepped out into the real world as adults, everything decided to shut down because of COVID in 2020.
Okay, yeah, that's true. I guess Gen Zers were kind of smacked with the whole COVID thing, And there's all these studies coming out how kids nowadays are just barely even meeting the minimum requirement, right? And you see this and you wonder why Trump completely dissolved the Department of Education, because it simply wasn't doing what the fuck it was meant to do, right? And this is what people voted for.
We've been having drills since we were 5 at school in case a lunatic comes in and mows the whole school down. And now to add the cherry on top, we may be running back to draft and being put on the warfield. Excuse me, I meant you guys may be running back to drafting on the warfield.
Yeah, I'm too fucking fat. I think I'm autistic. I'm on the fucking spectrum, I suppose. It ain't happening to me, but unless motherfuckers pull a Modern Warfare 2 and start invading America, then, well, maybe in that case. But
just found out I'm highly on the spectrum, so unfortunately that means I can't qualify. But good luck, future soldiers. I'll give y'all each a high five and you can have fun on the battlefield. It's crazy how Gen Z is kind of running back what millennials had. Because millennials had a war growing up with a terrible economy and had to worry about if they could even afford a house. But man, at least they had good music coming out. What the
This damn good entertainment. God, I'm sorry. I'm gonna keep fucking pausing. God damn good entertainment. Fuck. God damn. I know I was weird just to keep people the fuck away from me. Keep other kids the fuck away from me, and it worked perfectly. But god damn. We'd go home I'd have the Xbox on one screen, fucking Cartoon Network on another screen, motherfucking the radio playing some fucking Nicki Menagerie, bro. I have a goddamn Game Boy DS in my hand. God damn.
do we have for these turmoil times? Lil Mabu? I don't think I really have to explain too much what's going on. If you don't keep up with the news, you've probably seen the memes already about hitting 360 no scopes on the battlefield.
Bro, but there's always shit like this. The previous generation was shitting on our generation, and now we're shitting on Gen Zers when World War III starts, and all the COD players start hitting trick shot. Oh, God. And look, people use, memes and jokes just to cope with the reality. Who knows? This could everyone keeps saying, oh, World War III, Civil War, blah, 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 blah. People keep being hyperbolic. But you literally never fucking know what's going to happen. Like, when COVID happened, and right, it's like, okay, we knew it was in China and happening in China, but then, then it hit the U.S. and they're like, oh, well. And then it spread throughout the world, and it's like, holy shit.
But the United States of America officially got involved with the Israel and Iran conflict and decided to drop 3 bombs on what they say is their nuclear sites. But of course, that's just a theory. A game theory. I'm sorry, I feel like I need to take these matters more serious. Now, I'm not gonna say too much of my personal opinion on it and break this down like it's a 5-hour political podcast. I usually say and talk about things more on stream, so definitely go follow me on there in the second channel. But it's not surprising that everyone is scared online and doesn't know what's gonna happen. In the past, you usually didn't have a president tweeting that they bombed a country, then posting a low PNG photo of the American flag right after. This is definitely the worst time to be the ripe age of 18 to 25 because we going first if the draft happens. Unfortunately.
Well, and you didn't get that because, before Trump, the news would accurately represent what the president was saying, but that doesn't seem to be the case now. So, okay, how can he do it? Well, he can only really do it through social media, and he's reaching out to a younger demographic of people that is now growing up using social media as a tool. Like, again, when we were in middle school, we had one phone between the 3 of us, right? So it's like, I mean, now the generations nowadays are growing up on the internet.
Unfortunately, high school class of 2025, you only got a couple of seconds of freedom before you were cooked. I've been thinking to myself for a while, in a hypothetical unlikely scenario of them actually doing a draft, the government doesn't realize that
it would not work with Gen Z.
Gen Z has got to be the worst generation for them to try and get on the war train with them. And this is...
Well, what the fuck? Like, you would think that, but the entire apparatus of the draft exists to deal with people like this, right? To deal with, I'm one of the few people that do that thing where I look up shit at 2 a.m. in the morning on a Sunday, I guess it would be a Sunday morning. And you hear the horror stories of how drafts worked, in World War II and World War I, how the drafts working in Ukraine, where they order fucking DoorDash and then the guy gives them the food and they draft that motherfucker just off the street. They literally fucking spawn camped that guy and now he's in the fucking army. You hear these horror stories and you're like, well, is this me? Could this be me? I mean, it absolutely could be you, right? It's like, well, what are you going to do? Okay, you flip out. They beat the fuck out of you. Then what? The entire apparatus of a draft just exists to deal with the people who don't fucking want to be there. And no one else wants to be there, too. They're bored, and they see your dumbass, and then they're like, oh, well, finally, some entertainment. It's like...
Isn't even mentioning about all the femboys and furries we got. Not even talking about how half of us are either morbidly obese or twigs. One of the main reasons I think war wouldn't work with Gen Z is because the propaganda age of America is officially dead. And
let me guess. You're thinking about going to therapy. And as a therapist myself, of course I'm going to say that's up.
Not just America.
I don't agree. I just think there's many types of propaganda. A propaganda does absolutely work. There's a lot of young men that look up to Andrew Tate for some fucking reason because it's okay, well, he has all these cars and all these bitches and he's making a lot of money. And that used to be the talking point of the military. It's oh, hey, you get in the military, you get discipline, you get respect, you get a Hellcat, right, and a hot lady, and you can get a house. And military experience used to puts you higher on the hiring board of many companies. But see, now that's just not the fucking case anymore. Like, you can't sell what they used to do in the past. Because you see all these veterans out on the streets homeless, they can't get a job or nothing.
And the age of America is officially dead. And not just America, any country that has some form of free press is absolutely cooked. The reason why people back then were so patriotic and would do anything to be in the army in war times, you had kids who were in high school lying about their age so they could serve in the army, was because so many people trusted what the politicians said and how the media said things. Politicians were treated as saintly figures that would never do bad for the American people.
No, and I think, like, with JFK, that might have been the case. I mean, we know what happened with him. But, I mean, I think, like, what was that? Like, the Vietnam era? You know, like, people gladly was galvanized by, you know, the whole patriotic thing. And again, you will look down on by not joining the draft, right? Or if you burnt your draft papers, you're seen as a coward. Like, I think there are just other things outside of politicians, but they definitely are a driving force. I mean, you can galvanize people through fear, you know, about joining the war.
Because why would they? They sit on podiums and do cool speeches about us fighting for our democracy and freedom. And now we look back at certain conflicts America got in and realized that there was no point in us being there. Like, almost nobody nowadays thinks the Vietnam War was something America needed to get involved in. And it's crazy how the #1 superpower for military in all things lost to that were setting up Looney Tune ad traps in the ground.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and see, this is another one of those videos that I've seen. Like, literally saw traps in the fucking ground. It's like, holy fuck. But yeah, I mean, hindsight absolutely is 2020. But would I fault the veterans and the people that fought in, like, the Iraq? Not no. I mean, maybe the cause itself was, you know, vague, but the people that fought in the war legitimately would have believed that they're doing something good. Like, I don't think anyone, you know, who's of a right mind would join specifically to shoot people. Like, that if that's why you join, there's something wrong with you. I mean, God damn, that's a goddamn bear trap.
Also, the Iraq War is universally seen as a dumb war that shouldn't have happened by people now. Like, even Trump.
Like, we look back on it and, like, what was it, Saddam? Was that Iraq? Or, well, I know there's one with Saddam who, like, he just about won and ended up beating back the rebels, but for some reason, out of nowhere, he decided to employ chemical weapons against civilians. Like, man, literally the next day, he became a one-piece villain and was like, I'm just going to gas civilians. And we don't know if that really happened or not, but that gave plausible cause to oppose him.
And Obama agree on that. That's probably the only thing they agree on. The reasons why these worked, though, is because it was so...
And I'm gonna keep pausing. Like, the reason we're in the Middle East, you know, if you want the cold, hard, calculative facts of the matter, the reason we're there is to protect, like, your way of living, right? Because that USD, or I think that's the SpongeBob version of the USD on the floor, yeah, that on the floor behind you has so much purchasing power worldwide, right? If for any reason that that dollar right there would lose value, right? You know, the petrodollar would go down. Your way of living would be intrinsically affected, right? Like we knew there's not weapons of mass destruction there. We went there to protect the power of that USD. And you know the deal was okay, right? Saudi Arabia, you pay in USD or we invade you. Like you can say it's good or bad all you want. You can have whatever opinion you want about it, right? That's why we're there. And other nations back their currency with the power of the USD as well. Like the USD, the US dollar, it is worth a lot. Has value anywhere. Like okay, maybe on some, you know, Pacific island with tribes of people that haven't seen a white man in their life, maybe it'd be like, what the fuck is this? But in any country on the planet, in even in goddamn Thailand, if you have a $20 bill, you will not go hungry that day.
So much easier to push propaganda in the past. Like in the Vietnam War, they were playing TV ads saying this was all about freedom and nothing else. Taking ads out the newspaper saying the only way to be a man is by getting drafted to war. And at the time before social media, everyone basically believed it because that's all that was shown. There wasn't anyone with major platforms that would go against it because they would get censored. And everyone watched media through a few news channels which would all say the same thing. During the Iraq War though, that's when you first started seeing people actually start speaking up about things, saying, hey, maybe going into a country and murdering innocent civilians and committing war crimes isn't a good thing. Just maybe.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing with war, right? There really are no heroes in particular. Yeah, feel like because so many other countries was in the Middle East, like Russia was in the Middle East, Europe was in the Middle East, like all European countries were in the middle. Fucking China was like a lot of these people had, you know, a hand in that experiment. So again, it's just what you have are competing interests of countries, and every country's going to act in their own interests.
But social media was still in its baby phases at the time it was going on, so there was still a lot of enthusiasm for it. But now with Gen Z, we grew up in the most free era of social media. No one would go because everyone would know it would be another lie that the government is doing. And the military's numbers have already been dropping more than ever. People have been making fun of it because they be trying to recruit soldiers anywhere they can now. They've been seen at anime cons. They got whole Twitch channels now. They even got them at NBA games now. I'm not gonna lie, if I'm watching my glorious king LeBron putting up 40 points and a military sergeant comes up to me like, hey son, this game sure is great, right? Have you ever thought of the game of fighting for your country? Like, get the f out my face, bro. I'm watching LeBron. Even if there was a
I think using Hatsune Miku to advertise the military would be pretty hype. Like, that's just my personal opinion, right? Like, you see this with Ukraine ads about joining. Like, you have the hot female soldier being like, hey, Coomer, join the military. And people absolutely fucking fall for it. Genius plan, by the way.
Chance it was true and we were rightfully defending ourselves from evil. The US government has lost so much trust in the public, no one would believe them. I don't know a single man I've asked in Gen Z that said they would actually go if they got drafted. Most would rather just take the prison time or fine than go. And looking at it in the long run,
but again, like, do you not think that like the recruiters roll up specifically knowing you're going to say, "I put me in jail"? Like, in a Ukraine situation, like, okay, you go to jail and then what? That shit gets fucking supersonic missiled by the Russians. Like, when that was going on, like, what do you mean? Oh, you're in Israel. Oh, take me to jail. And what? You know, they go in expecting you, like the recruiters, the draft people go in expecting you to say fucking no. That is the point. They want you to say no. So they're not bored. and they're like, oh, look, someone's playing hard to get. Like, you're challenging them. And they 100% exist to step up to the challenge. Like, no, take me to jail. No. Brother, no.
It's not even that bad. It's 5 years in prison max if you don't go. So it's either...
Yeah, like, on paper, yes. On paper. Yeah, dude, do you not think they will roll up to you knowing you're going to say no?
You get 5 years max in prison for not going and stay alive, or go and potentially get obliterated on the battlefield by a missile straight to the head. Hey man, I don't know about y'all, but I'm throwing a party in that prison for every day we not. I got a friend that's...
And again, you know, a lot of people join, say, the Ukraine war because they're like, okay, well, I either do it or my kids do it. You know, like there's a lot of, I guess for lack of a better term, manipulation that goes into it. Psychological manipulation that absolutely works, right? You're like, okay, I don't do it, my kids do, you know, and that absolutely works.
Served in the military for a couple of years, and even he said nowadays he'd rather take the prison time.
God.
Also, the younger generation has realized we don't want to fight a war because of a politician's beef. Like, why don't y'all fight it yourselves? Why I gotta grab the military equipment while you sit on a plane watching from above drinking champagne? They should host a boxing match every year for world leaders, and whoever wins, their country gets the most benefits for that year. Looking at her...
I do say that would absolutely... a lot of things would change. I mean... who would win in a boxing match? Putin or Trump? I mean, Trump's an old man. An old businessman versus, I think Putin was in like the Russian version of the Navy SEALs. Like, maybe... like, babyface Vance would have a chance. I don't know if I think this guy just they bringing him out the damn retirement home for here in America.
Leader for now though. Yeah, we might be losing for the next
Got him.
if that happens. Also, growing up in this age, we've gotten exposed to how badly these war injuries leave people. This right here might be the sole reason Gen Z would never join in. There's always a chance you could end up with one of those. People in war lose body parts I didn't even know was possible to lose. The day I'm at war and they try to obliterate my meat, the whole place is gonna turn down. They should have tried to...
Yeah, and again, like, people go in to serve their country, right? If you go in specifically to be in war, I think there's something wrong. Like, specifically to shoot people, I think there's something wrong with you. That's why you need, well, the manipulation. You know, you need, you know, the plausible cause, the casus belli. You need to galvanize people. Like, Modern Warfare tells you everything. Like, if you played Modern Warfare as a child, like, that game absolutely tells you, if you played that entire trilogy, you know, what's required and how far people and what people are willing to do. You know, I mean, it's just basic psychology, right?
Stop those images from coming out, because who the hell would want to potentially get involved in a war after seeing pictures like that? And it's crazy because it could happen at any moment to you on the warfield. One day you're chilling in the breezy weather of Iraq in 115-degree weather. You're vibing, then you look to the right and see a man with 20 cc's of C4 strapped to his chest running to you at Usain Bolt speed.
But again, there's comfort in the thought that, okay, you got your boys back and they got yours, and hopefully he's not barreling specifically towards you, right? Like, there's comfort in shared suffering, or shared, like, you know, fucking, what's a better way to put this? You know, you're not alone in this situation. Even if you're drafted, you know, okay, I'm drafted with, like, you know, a bunch of other dudes who are also drafted, and you're just praying maybe that guy isn't barreling specifically towards you. I mean, I could never really, I could. It's difficult to wrap my head around, but I feel like that's how I think about it. But yeah, I'm here in a world of shit, but so is everyone else in my situation.
And now
Peter Piper used the smart
Right.
buying tools from Amazon.
I keep forgetting to, but we're doing it.
home. I'm not sitting here and saying all of America's wars will end up looking like Two-Face back at home. I'm not sitting here and saying all of America's wars were unjustified though. Like, I always appreciate the veterans out there who fought, because most of the time, even if the war ended up being unjustified, a lot joined to fight for justified reasons and what they were told, and then
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I said. It's like, you know, all of them go in knowing that they're serving their country, and even if the war itself, you know, isn't entirely, you know, justifiable at the end of it all, it's like, well, I went in serving my country, so I guess you can get some sort of clarity from that.
Felt bad when they realized it was a lie. And also for World War II, America was justified in a lot, like, let's be real, mainly making sure Adolf didn't end up owning the world. But like I said,
yeah, but America was also surprisingly against joining, period. Like, there's a surprisingly good amount of sympathy towards the Germans here in America that no one really talks about. I mean, they were an industrial superpower at the time, and, you know, before Mr. Mustache Man started flipping out, I mean, like, there's a surprise. Like, they did have support here in America. Like, even the motherfucking Walt Disney, you know, talked about, you know, had, you know, kind words to say about Hitler. Not entirely the regime itself, but about the man. And this was before all the spurgery happened.
no matter how justified a conflict may be, the trust is gone from the public. It'll take a real hard campaign to have the youth agree the government is totally not lying in what they're saying. And the
Yeah, because, again, you're, okay, I guess with this new generation, they truly are cooked, because you were told, okay, you get an education, go to college, get a well-paying job, get a house, a wife, have some kids and a dog, and you're set for life. Well, that social contract doesn't really exist anymore. Like, I mean, I haven't looked at, like, home ownership, but there's a surprising amount of young kids that, you know, don't even have home ownership yet. And it's like you're sold that idea, but then you actually get out in reality, and that is so far from out of your reach that you're like, well, what the fuck? Why would I fight? Like, I'm fighting. I'm having to battle here just to afford to make ends meet, and then COVID happens, and you're locked indoors. You can't work. Oh, but they give you $1,000. Be like, well, sorry, bud. But, and then, okay, it lifts. You're trying to find a job in a field that, you know, you went to college for, and it just ain't happening, right? Like, again, if that social contract wasn't violated, we wouldn't be in this situation.
president we have now is totally not a liar, right?
One thing I can promise you this. I will always tell you the truth.
He don't even believe that himself.
God, look, I mean, he's a businessman. Like, what is he supposed to say?
Do you see his face? He was probably holding back a laugh so hard in his mind. That's the thing that's most important in a war, having a person that the younger generation wholeheartedly trusts. It's a reason why a lot of dictatorships completely ban social media, because they can fully propaganda the younger generation to look up to the leader, and they're all gonna believe in them. Even having someone that they trust is hard, but having someone that the younger generation doesn't trust, yeah, it's gonna be damn near impossible for the government to try to get us on the war train with that.
Again, not particularly. I mean, I don't know what your opinion of Zelensky is, but he has galvanized a lot of people. And again, completely different country. Like their enemies literally on their border versus America, where most of our enemies outside of the Civil War was halfway across and I guess, well, both the Civil Wars is halfway across the world, like an entire ocean away, right? Like he's galvanized quite a bit of the younger generation to defend the country, right? And it takes something like a situation like that for it to happen. Again, what happened here in America? I mean, I don't know. I mean, do you think we're going to have enemies on our border? You know, like legitimate enemies, not like, you know, the cartel or like, you know, like I'm talking like a legitimate threat on our border. I don't think so. And the Cold War proves that even if you try, it's not going to work because we'll fuck your nation up before you can even try.
No matter your view on Trump, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that most of Gen Z does not have a good view on him. You take a room of 10 of us, and I would say at least 8 people are gonna say they don't like him. And
yeah, and that's the thing with like people acting in a way where they trying to for the approval of others instead of, you know, just being truthful. Like, okay, that may work in a group, but you know, people will see you for what you are. Like, that's why even if it's to a bit of a detriment, it's better to just tell the fucking truth and be like, okay, well, I have no love for him, but you know, I voted for him, and I will take the good as well as the bad with that, because you know, living through the past 4 years, I'm like, I don't want to do that again. And they blame COVID. No, okay, maybe a little bit, but unfortunately, this is how people think. They're like, okay, did I live a better life in the past 4 years than I did the previous? And if the answer is no, they're going to vote someone new into office, even if it's not their fault. And it sucks, you know, but that's how the Walmart American thinks. So you better damn near work in the favor of the Walmart American, not in the favor of, you know, some niche ideological group of people who don't try to understand, you know, not and you know, try to impose on everyone else. That never works.
look, like I've said in the past, I'm not even one of those that's a Trump hater 24/7 and spends all day writing hate articles on him. But if you truly think the younger generation would fully be behind him declaring a war on another country, you're delusional. Bro, we just had a protest around the whole country against what he's doing. And because he's commanding...
Yeah, but again, like, this was just a very few select group of people, and you can tell because, I mean, he won the popular vote, right? Like, and I guess the media does a perfect job of trying to portray this as the majority of people, and maybe they've tricked a few other groups of people. And, you know, maybe there's a lot of money, like they'll pay a few of the supporters some money to rile people up. But again, if a good majority of people thought like this, Trump wouldn't have been in office.
Protests around the whole country against what he's doing. And because he's commander-in-chief and can set whatever war policies he wants, I would not trust what the this would implement. Like, what if he implements a policy where if your meat is smallest, you gotta be the first to go because you probably can't repopulate the population after...
Well, because again, people think the president can do whatever the fuck he wants. Well, he can't, you know, because if he does, even if he pisses off, like, his base, if he pisses off these other constituents and conglomerates of political parties, they're going to work against him, right? Like in the term before this one, he had a lot of other Republicans in his faction working against him. And he had the Democrats working against him. Like this idea that a president can just do whatever the fuck he wants just doesn't... Like if that was the case, we wouldn't be in this situation, right?
drops from all the casualties. All of us would be like, I don't know if I can trust the man leading the war that says this on stage.
Because they asked me what I do, and I said, I'm gonna bomb the out of them.
Imagine he forgot there was a couple of soldiers on the warfield and threw one right in the middle of the fight. Also, another reason why the younger generation wouldn't be motivated to join in is because we really got nothing to look forward to and have no hope for an American dream. Our economy's still from COVID and inflation is still going on. No one can get a job on the mainland already, and most of Gen Z ain't gonna get a house in their lifetime.
Yeah, and you think about that, and no one wants to come up with solutions, or at least plans for solutions. People just, attack the people that point that out. It's like, yeah, and there's a good if you have so many companies and so many like banks keep raising the price of buildings and living to the point where, the price of housing goes so far up that it's completely out of your pay range. And the only way you can do it is if you either, live with a couple friends in the house or live with your parents. I mean, yeah, you're going to have this situation. And people are going to be like, okay, so what do I get? Again, if this social contract has been violated so long ago that, honestly, you don't want that to be the case. And people do this thing where they act and they speak the way they want the world to work. So they'll deny it. They'll blame the Gen Z for not being able to, for quote unquote not working hard enough because they're acting the way they want the world to work. But in all honesty, right, why would someone who, probably doesn't care for the country all that much because he's signed a bad contract, and now they're demanding he fight in a draft and fight in a war. Like, why would any reasonable person go for that, regardless of the situation, right? You gotta build this hypothetical around and be like, okay, if you were in this person's situation, like, would you want to do this? Like, okay, maybe you particularly would, given your life experiences, but again, if you were to put yourself in the shoes of, the young adolescent man who everyone acts like he's the problem, right? But all he wants to do is sit and play games in his mom's fucking basement because he's not even given a chance. Like, would you join the military? Or would you just be the person to talk down to this individual, right? Well, people would talk down on you. Like, what would you do in that situation?
Get a house in their lifetime. At least back then, when you fought a war,
and again, just because I bring the argument up doesn't mean it's any way indicative of me, or it doesn't mean I entirely agree with it. But I mean, we're trying to think critically here. At least I'm attempting to.
Had those things to look forward to. You came back and could work a shift as a cashier and buy a house in 2 years. Nowadays, instead of that, you're gonna come back and have no work available to you, probably still be living with your parents. All the femcells on Twitter and TikTok are gonna be laughing at the men dying on the warfield. And don't count on the government to help you either after. It's so sad to me that—
Yeah, and it's like, I had a point, but I completely lost it. Well, what was I'll bring it back. I'll bring it back. Yeah, I completely lost
that there's people out there that served the country and helped keep it alive, only for them to end up homeless with no help from the government. In what world should homeless veterans even be a thing, bro? We spend $880 billion on the military a year. Everyone—
Yeah, it's not going towards them. I mean, we spend so much money, right? And I mean, it's not like people don't want to be useful, right? And people don't want to, serve and have any level of self-actualization. It's just if you're put in a situation where no one wants you to, and the world doesn't want you to, yeah, you're going to be the individual that's like, well, I'm just going to completely shut off from society, and it completely makes sense why you would. I mean, again, and a lot of people attacking these individuals don't truly understand what they're going through. They're just looking for an outlet, you know, to have their, like, whatever, you know, or maybe they just think the person's pathetic because at the time they were that person. But again, there are no, like, good male role models in, like, at all, and which is why people are looking toward, like, Andrew Tate and Sneeko. And I personally don't think role models is not entirely, like, it's a good thing to have them, but I think it's better to just be more stoic about it. Like, understand that people are flawed, people have their flaws, and then operate off of that. You know, instead of this idea that, oh no, this person's perfect and I gotta emulate him. It's like, no, people are not perfect. You know, people have their flaws and they will fail and they will do it again. And it's better to operate based off that assumption than to just latch on to a role model. That's really just my opinion.
Who served in war should be eating good and kicking back for the rest of their lives. They did something that none of us wanted to do, and the politicians, and then got the end of the stick. If I was them, I would take back all of my service and stay my ass on the mainland. The government has tried to right those wrongs and make better benefits for people, but you still end up with people who got left behind and have nothing after. The only reason why I would even join, to be honest, is the benefits. I just have to sit there and pray that a war doesn't actually happen. Because for real, I'd only want the free insurance and vacations. The warfield is a different conversation. I'm gonna have to take my prison time for that game. Anyways, that's gonna be it. For anyone in Gen Z that's actually worried about a draft in war, I'm gonna let you know right now, there's about a 95% chance no draft happens. Like, first off, half of—
Yeah, again, we're one of the greatest militaries in the world. Like, there's no way we'll ever be in a situation where you'll have to be drafted. It's just not going to work.
our paycheck, if you live in the United States, goes to the military. We spend $880 billion a year on the military, and Iran spends a whopping $10 billion. Their whole military operation would get wiped in like 2 nanoseconds if they actually tried to attack civilians. They would learn the true reason why we don't have free healthcare. The last thing they'd ever want to do is let all politicians put their political beliefs aside and let Congress come together and let Trump do whatever the he'd want to do in a war. It wouldn't matter if their allies got involved, which I don't think they would even do. They would have so much more to lose with Iran, like it wouldn't be worth it. Also, they wouldn't do it because I'm here. They know I don't play when I say leave. Anyways, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. As always, I love you guys consensually.
And again, I wouldn't do it because a lot of countries have nukes. Like, the reason, like, we understand, and this is why, like, a lot of warfare is fought by proxy. So us giving, like, our money and technology to Ukraine, and as opposed to having military personnel there. I mean, because, again, you have the EU, which is a nuclear power. You have Russia, which is a nuclear power. And when 2 nuclear powers goes to war, everyone is literally cupping their balls. Because, you know, we don't want that, that type of war to happen. Like, that is like the worst case scenario. Because once the N-bombs start dropping, like, everyone loses. Right? Literally every single person on God's given earth loses that war. Which is why we don't try not to fight. We try to seek out peaceful resolutions first. And most people just try to have a cool head about situations. It's why the Ukraine war is a shitty situation, but again, there's no way we would stop it without, you know, capitulating a little bit to Russia, even though they were the aggressors. Like, we're talking a nuclear power. And to be fair, Ukraine did held out. Like, they made Putin look stupid because it's like of all the combined military might of Russia, they could barely take just a little bit of Ukraine. Like, yeah, that, and they were brave. And say what you want about Zelensky. I mean, he was in the trenches with 5 inches along with them. But unfortunately, to end that whole thing, and God knows what we're going to do with the Iran and Israel situation. Like, in Israel dumping literally their full load of bombs, because Trump's like, okay, y'all got 12 hours, right, to finish up. And Israel launched literally everything they had at them. Like, God fucking knows how that situation is going to pan out.
Till next time, I'm out.
Oh, God. But yeah, this is a good video. I'm not fighting for old rich people who beef on Twitter while innocent lives are ruined. Yeah, every single person with a functioning mindset is like that, right? If all the politicians who want war were drafted, war would decrease. Wars would decrease. No, I mean, because other politicians would take their spot. I mean, those are positions that are going to exist. This is why I firmly believe that politicians should just settle in a gentleman's duel of fisticuffs. I do agree. But will that happen? No. And again, could Trump take Putin? I severely doubt that. I mean, I ain't saying he has nothing, but goddamn, we can't drink alcohol until 21 U.S. age, yet can die in a meaningless war at 18. Let that sink in. Yeah, and my point's coming back, I think. My point I had earlier. It's like you're literally farmed out of high school with like student loans and with all that before you even get into college, and God pray you get like a scholarship, but you have to actually get good grades to maintain it. But yeah, like there's so many of these loan agencies that will farm kids straight out of high school that literally before you get your first job, you're already in debt. And I know teachers who will be paying off their student loan debt until the day they die. And that, let that sink in, right? Open the door to that bathroom and let that sink in. They'll be paying their student loan debt till the day they die. Like, it'll always just be something that exists. And they can garnish wages. You know, they can foreclose any type, any type of legal way to try to squeeze them loans out of you, right? And okay, you lose your job, or COVID happens, or any of that. You know, anything, things completely out of your control can happen to where you're just boned. You're like, well, I can't, how the fuck am I going to pay this off? And they're like, well, we don't know. Figure it the fuck out. Or, I mean, we're going to get that money one way or the other. To be fair about Vietnam, it was super unpopular back then. Some veterans were basically shunned. Yeah, because that was like the anti-war idea. Boomers buys house, millennials worry about buying houses. Gen Z can't buy a house. Who would fight for a country you can't even own land in? Exactly, right? Because all the land is being bought up by corporations, and therefore the cost of living is going up. It's like, and people have to, you know, pawn off, you know, have several people living in a single house. Born too early to fight in the Middle East, born too late to fight in the Middle East, born just in the right time to fight in the Middle East. Oh, God. I'm not dying for Lockheed Martin's stock market value. Facts. Deep down, the old generation is just getting more mad about the advancement and access to the internet because they really can't lie as well as they could back in the past. No, I think they can again. I mean, I don't know what you mean by the older generation, but tall politicians, like, we've lived through COVID. Like, we know they can lie and people will gladly be lied to. I'm not fighting for old rich people who don't give a fuck about me. Yeah, I mean, most people do think about this, but I mean, if you have a house, a wife, and kids, you will fight for them. I mean, that's the situation in Ukraine. This generation is so unserious, there's no way they can survive in a war. I mean, given the technology, I mean, I think, like, the drill sergeant understands he's getting a bunch of horny men, horny young adolescent men in there, and he knows how to deal with them and how to shape them into good fighters, right? I mean, it's his job. He's probably done it for 20, 30, 40 plus years. And, you know, people will gladly rise to the standards set for them. The problem is if there's no standard. Like, there's just no high standard or expectation for young men nowadays. Now they're just attacked and treated like the greatest evil. And all the person wants to do is just sit and fucking play games in his house. You know, completely detached from society. On top, the U.S. Army does not care for its veterans. So many vets on the streets homeless, in other cases fighting for compensation in court. You're just a resource for the military. Yes and no. I mean, there is a demographic of veterans that come back and they don't really know how to integrate into society, and there should be help for them. But, like, I've watched a video on the Veterans Affairs and how bureaucratic it is and borderline shitty it is, you know, and I don't know, because things like PTSD, I don't know, PTSD is difficult to prove, like, to get compensation. Now, okay, if your arm or leg is blown off or you suffer a brain injury, you know, obviously you can prove that, but PTSD, you really can't. I'd rather be called a traitor to my own country than to gamble my life in someone else's country. You say that. I don't know. I think you know what traitors, like, what would happen to them if you're branded a traitor. I mean, Tim has his return in the military. Dad died of leukemia from the service. He suffered numerous ailments due to toxic substances and shit paint. VA denied benefit. Exactly. This dude's probably about to go into it. Uncle both fought in Vietnam, still struggled with PTSD and actually getting help from the VA. Grandfather's one died in the service in World War II. His wife received no compensation. Had to give my dad away for a few years. And the others was discharged due to going insane from operating cranes in New Guinea for 23 hours a day. Don't remind me how Congress gives burn pit victims the finger and drags their feet until 2-3 years ago. I do not care if I'm called a traitor. I would gladly see the country turn into a field of glass and turn into nothing more than a shadow of ash on the ground myself before I die for some geriatric politician on life support. That's pretty harsh. But yeah, I mean, you pray you're not in any of these situations. And you pray you're not in a situation where you will get drafted. They really threw the first punch in this conflict and expect us to clean up their mess. Facts. Again, I think the one thing is I don't want to go to war for some, like, because another country decided to throw hands, like, and they happen to be our ally, and now, okay, well now we need to send troops to go help them out. It's like, why? I mean, I'm all for, slight American isolationism, like, get the fuck out of these countries, except countries that serve our very own interests, like the Middle East, and defend our assets, and that's just about it. Like, build up here in America, build up here at home, and then just be fine. I can't drink alcohol until 21 age. Yeah, you can die in minutes of war 18. Let that sink in. And there's a lot of these repeat comments. But anyway, I mean, that's all I really got to say about this. A good video. Peace out.